Look at El Salvador, for example, how they went from having the highest homicide rate in the world to now having one of the lowest ones in
political safety and safety on the street. Latin America's, at least as a European citizen, is very safe politically, so there's no issue. I had zero issues in any of the countries.
If you really want, like for example, from Managua to Tegucigalpa, we paid I think like 10-12 euros or something, like for the whole way, because it's ridiculously cheap. This is the Every Country Podcast, episode number 5. Today we are gonna talk about
Latin America.
Baila Morena, Baila Morena.
Nice. Yeah, Luca asked me which shirt you should wear for the episode. So
Brazil!
We had the decision between Brazil and Argentina, but
Brazil, mejor.
Yeah, I don't think there's a discussion, right? We should not open this. It's anyway, clear.
I think Latin America is one of those places where lots of people want to travel to.
Yes.
So we decided, why not make an episode on it?
Designated for Latin America. I think it's nice if you want to get into more difficult countries. It's a nice beginning for more difficult countries. It's also, for me, it was the first big region that I discovered, you could say.
Discover airlines.
Yeah. No, but it's no, but for real, I think Latin America is a nice gateway to the more challenging traveling.
Yeah, a lot of people always ask when it comes to Latin America, like, is it safe? Is it safe for women? Is it safe at night? All those kind of questions. And let's talk about it. What do you think? Is Latin America safe? Is it a safe destination to
Safety is almost is always relative. I would say, for example, like the big discussion that we already had with Syria is political safety and safety on the street. Latin America's, at least as a European citizen, is very safe politically, so there's no issue. I had zero issues in any of the countries. The only time that I had to talk to an official was when we entered the DR, Dominican Republic, back from Haiti. It was like, what the fuck did you guys do in Haiti? Yeah. But it was funny. We took a selfie in the end, so that was fine. But then on the street, of course, it was funny because my first visits to Latin America was Brazil. It was like, 4 or 5 times before I saw a different country. Technically, I went to Tijuana, to Mexico. That was my first time in Latin America. We went to Tijuana from San Diego. But my first real visits in Latin America was Brazil. And my second real country was Chile. And when I went to Santiago, I hoped that it would be safer than cities like Sao Paulo, for example. And as I traveled to more countries in South America, basically what I figured out is that Brazil is kind of the ghetto of South America. I feel like everything's safer than Brazil, except for like Guyana or something, But that's like the way how I feel. I feel like all the cities are pretty safe, but if you step outside at night in Rio or Sao Paulo, then you're kind of in danger.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Latin America, it really depends on what time of the day you go out. If you go out at night, a lot of places are kind of dangerous. For example, I've been to Bogota now many times. I really love Bogota, and I always stay at the Las Aguas metro station, like right in the center, literally like in downtown Bogota. And all the local Colombians are like, "Are you crazy? Why do you stay there? Like, stay in the nice areas of Bogota and the suburbs, like the rich neighborhoods." I'm like, "Nah, it's fine, Like, you get used to it." And I think with Latin America, it's a vibe, As long as you speak Spanish, which I think is really essential for Latin America, you can kind of get along.
That's true.
Even if you're in a barrio, and we've been, for example, to Petare, which is often considered like the most dangerous ghetto in Latin America. And it was amazing. It was
amazing. If you can connect to the people in the neighborhood, it's awesome. Really, like
we did go with locals, friends.
Yes, that's true. We met people, of course, through our friends, basically. But without speaking, I think speaking Spanish is kind of the key to get in peace with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Especially or just with anyone that talks to you on the street. It's always if you can respond to them in Spanish, it's kind of like a basic level of trust you get already.
Yeah. And also, I feel like you're not seen as this gringo who just comes and visits and it's like this easy target. It's like, because it's very rare that people go there to those places and they actually speak decent Spanish.
It's true. Yeah. No, basic Spanish. I feel like every European traveler, backpacker, whatever, speaks basic Spanish in those countries. But it's usually really bad, and it's just so they can, I don't know, ask where, like if they're taking the right bus or something. But if you can actually have a conversation in Spanish, it's a different level. It's a different thing. Yeah.
And also, I feel like the people open up in a different way too.
Absolutely.
It's like immediately, like me, for example, being this gringo, literally this European gringo in Bogota, but speaking somewhat decent Spanish, people are like, oh, wow, that's cool. Like, what are you doing here? They're rather confused. They're not like, and I feel like it's kind of the same when we, for example, went to Petare, we spoke Spanish with the people and we had a great time. I feel like someone who doesn't speak Spanish is going to have a bit of a different time because a lot of people that don't speak great English, in some places, they do, but I think in the majority of countries, it's very hard to get around in English, especially once you leave the big cities. And then you're going to have a difficult time, and you'll probably perceive it as more dangerous as well.
I think so, because it's just not familiar to what you know. If you know Spanish, you already have been in contact already with how these countries work a little bit. You know what to expect. You can also read signs. I think reading signs is always a big thing. Where stuff is, what to expect, or like to get a little bit more of the vibe of the place you're in. And if I wouldn't count with people that are able to speak English to you. You might be lucky if someone noticed it on the street that you kind of have difficulty talking to someone. But in general, the lady at the bus station or in the supermarket or anywhere doesn't speak English. Nowhere. I don't know, maybe Panama or so. Maybe
obviously that's very, very generalized. I feel like it really depends as well on the country where you go to. If you maybe go to Costa Rica or something, they have amazing English proficiency levels.
Yes,
but then it really depends on the countries. Once you go
and
to
the place you go to. It's usually the people that you're in contact with when you're traveling. And I'm not talking about hostel receptions, but people at the supermarket, people at just
basic jobs. Basically,
exactly.
Don't speak English.
They don't speak English. Bus drivers or so. They don't speak English. But of course, if you still need help, people at hotels, hostels, whatever, they always do. Most of the times.
No, but I feel like once you speak Spanish, also a whole other world opens up 100%. To you. You're invited to people. In Latin America, it's so common to just be invited for parties, for example.
Right. Yeah.
And just have an amazing time. And a lot of the times, this doesn't happen if you're just speaking English. It's way easier to connect with people. And you're immediately part of the group. That's what I love about Latin America is you have this sense of community almost. It's this group sense. We just met you, but you're already
It's so different to Europe and North America.
And I love it.
Too.
It's one of my favorite things about traveling to Latin America. But it really helps because you can only feel as part of the group if you can actually communicate with the people.
Exactly.
So guys, if you want to travel to Latin America, I think it definitely makes sense to learn some Spanish.
Exactly. And talking about Spanish, there's one big country that does not speak Spanish, which is Brazil.
Brazil!
And even there, if you speak Spanish, you can communicate with the people.
That's what I do. Meu amigo.
Yeah. So Portuguese is very similar to Spanish. And I have a friend, he used to work at Air France at the airport of Sao Paulo. And I saw him once, I flew, I did fly from Sao Paulo to Paris on Air France when he was at the gate. And I find it so fascinating how he spoke Portuguese to the people that were at the gate, the passengers, and they spoke Spanish to him. And they had almost no problems communicating. They still got the issue managed and everything, and it was just, I think it was even people from Spain, so it's really, as long as you speak clearly and in basic vocabulary, you don't have a problem communicating with people in Brazil.
It's typically slightly easier for Portuguese speakers to understand Spanish than the other way around. But even if, I don't speak Portuguese, for example, but if they speak really slowly, I can definitely
and there's a big difference between Brazilian Portuguese and European Portuguese.
Yeah, European Portuguese I don't understand.
I really need to concentrate to understand European Portuguese because it's just weird. It's really, if you're from Portugal, I'm sorry, but you guys are weird. And Brazilian Portuguese is easier to understand because they actually pronounce all the letters. They, just speak more clearly, I would say.
It has more alegría.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, one thing I don't really hear, but people say is that European Portuguese kind of sounds like Russian.
I mean, linguistically it makes sense because you have a lot of the like a lot of those kind of consonants, the hushing sounds basically, which Russian also features.
Yeah.
So it's they're sometimes pronounced a little bit harder than the European Portuguese.
Yeah, but I think as long as you speak a little Spanish, you should be fine in all Spanish and Portuguese-speaking countries.
Let's imagine you want to visit every single country in Latin America or in the world. What's the best way to go about it in Latin America?
Like infrastructure, like
what's the best route, I would
itinerary,
say? The best itinerary if you want to visit every single country in, let's say, Central America separately, maybe from South America.
Okay, so Central America is pretty straightforward. You basically just have one route between Panama City and Cancun.
And does it work? Can you go there? How? I'm asking
there's,
you.
Tika bus.
Tika bus, yes.
Yeah. There's one bus line, Tika bus, and they just go from. I think they only go to Guatemala, right? They go from Panama City to Guatemala, every major city basically, and then from there. I mean, I did it on 2 separate trips, so I stopped in El Salvador, but I think from Guatemala to Cancun is.
It's ADO. So
does ADO go to Guatemala City? I think they only go to Belize.
Certainly to Belize.
Yeah, they go to Belize, exactly. So from Cancun to Belize is ADO bus, and then from Guatemala to Panama City is a Tika bus. The thing is, how do you get from Guatemala City to Belize? There are flights, which are expensive.
I took a bus. It's very straightforward.
Or there are like smaller local buses, so that works as well.
Yeah, I don't think the Tika bus goes there. But I think there was maybe too much information. But basically, to summarize, if you want to do all of Central America, you have 2 options. You can either take all the local buses, right? You can take step-by-step local buses, or you just take the upscale Tika bus, basically, which is a Costa Rican company that will take you all the way from Panama up to Mexico in theory. You're right.
Yeah, no, they do go to Mexico, but not like Cancun, but they go. I have the map open.
But they do go to Chetumal, I think, or something.
I don't think so. No, I think they only go to like the southwest of the Mexican.
Maybe we should
San Cristobal. That's where they go. San Cristobal. Yeah.
Okay. So with the Tika bus, you can go all the way from Panama to San Cristobal in Mexico. If you want to go to Belize, you have the ADO, and but you have a bunch of different options. You can also take the local
chicken
smaller
buses,
the chicken buses.
Yeah.
So I did this once with a friend of mine.
Really?
And, we took it from Honduras. We took it from Nicaragua to Honduras, actually. So from Managua, we took a local bus to the border.
Oh, wow.
And then we were helped by some police officers at the Honduran border. And then we took another, like a small van from the border towards Tegucigalpa. It was very interesting, but definitely the Tika bus is a lot more comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
However, sometimes you have a little child puking next to you. That's what happened to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and most of the times, the bus is really cooled down.
That's true.
To the point where it's really uncomfortable for me. If you guys are from the Tika bus company, just put it up like 3 degrees, please, because it feels like 18 degrees. I feel like I'm in a freezer, and then you go outside and you're like, ooh, it's a heat wave.
Yeah.
You know? I don't like it. It's the same here in Dubai. Everyone always cools down so crazily. Yeah. It's a bit too much for me.
It's true. No, the temperature, I didn't really have an issue with that. What I had an issue with were, for one, like sometimes they played music super loud. But that was only for...
Baila morena, baila morena.
But it was only like a really small part of the trip, usually in the beginning, you know, and then after like half an hour or so, they will stop the music.
They sometimes play movies as well.
On the Tika bus, I'm not sure. Maybe they do. I don't really remember. So. And once it was from Costa Rica to Nicaragua. There was a guy next to me that wouldn't stop talking. So that was like, you know, but you know, that sometimes happens. But I had a really good time, I would say, on the buses. You know, sometimes the schedule was kind of bad, you know, because they usually go at night. I think I remember.
And sometimes they arrive at like 3 a.m.
Exactly.
So for example, I think when we went from Panama to Costa Rica, I think the schedule is that your bus arrives in San Jose at like 3 a.m. or something.
Might be, something
and it's
like
usually times where in Central America alone, without having a clue, just driving, you don't really want to be out. You know? So sometimes we even stayed. They have like those Tika hotels as well, and you can like stay the night. We did this, for example, in Tegucigalpa, and we arrived at the bus station, even though it was a local bus or something. But we arrived like at the bus station, and then we stayed in one of their like hotels. They have like partnerships, I think.
Maybe. I don't remember it being like a major problem, but I think it was San Jose, so maybe like the least problematic city. But I did walk to my Airbnb or whatever I had, like in the middle of the night, you know, which in some places would have been an issue. But it's just, you know, just keep that in mind, that maybe you have a hotel very close to the bus station, or you have a taxi organized, or like transport organized or something. Because there are taxis, of course, in front of the bus station. But I'm kind of against taxis in that region. You know, I don't want to take taxis. You know, because there's one group of people that I really dislike, and it's taxi drivers in Latin America, because they always rip you off. You know, you're kind of seen as like an ATM for them, and usually you also don't have cash in their currency. Actually, that's what I do. You know, just thought about. Usually you can't even pay them, because you have an ATM that will take like a 20 euro fee from you or so. You know, that was, you know, hyperbole, but it's still very expensive. And I'm usually a guy, I don't have any cash on me. I just do everything by card, because it's also cheaper, which usually works in Latin America. Not always, but it's fine.
So as a little summary, I think the Tika buses are quite a reliable option. I can definitely recommend them. It's quite idiot-proof. If you just want to go from one city to the next one, you're just on that bus. They take you through the borders, basically. You're in this group, you know. It's very nice.
It is.
Price-wise, it's also okay. It's like 30, 40 euros, I think, per way.
Yeah, something like that. It's kind of always the same.
It's slightly upscale, like for Central American standards. Maybe. I think it is. If you compare it to the local buses, where you can, if you really want, like for example, from Managua to Tegucigalpa, we paid, I think, like 10, 12 euros or something, you know, like for the whole way, because it's ridiculously cheap. And then the Tika bus would have been like 40 euros. So it's definitely more expensive. But it's very reliable. I definitely recommend it. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about food in Latin America.
Food, yeah. They like beans and rice.
Oh, yes. And I love them too.
I'm not the biggest fan of them, to be honest. What I like Mexican food is nice, but I feel like the further south you go, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of the stuff. You know, also Brazil is really proud of their food, and I'm sorry, I love Brazil, but I can't understand this. I don't like Brazilian food. It's like, I say, it's okay. It's like, you know, I can eat it. But
what I love in Brazil is you always, at the bus stations, you have those like buffet places.
Oh yeah. The buffet places are always.
Oh, that's the best.
And then you weigh, and depending on how much your food weighs.
What do you think is your favorite food in Latin America? Name your top 3.
Well, tacos.
Tacos.
Quesadillas.
Quesadillas. ¿Qué más?
Honestly, just when you go to like a Mexican restaurant, Mexican food is like superior to anything else, I feel like.
I agree. You
know,
for me, Mexican
it's
is
really
also
like
my favorite.
You have tacos, you have burritos, you have nachos. Nachos is debatable if it's Mexican, but it's you have the quesadillas, fajitas, that kind of stuff.
I think Mexican food is the best. You have molletes, you have enfrijoladas, you have chilaquiles, you have it's the best. No, I like, for example, I do quite like Colombian food, some of it. They have some amazing vegan restaurants in Bogota.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
I do like that all those countries generally tend to have fresh food. You know, in the last episode we talked about Oceania,
which is like the opposite. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you do have a lot of junk food as well, and a lot of like crisps.
What I found crazy in Central America, they have all the American branches. They have everything from McDonald's to Popeyes to Wendy's, everything. It's crazy, especially in Honduras. My couchsurfing host stayed on like a side street of a main street. On the main street, they had realistically like 15 to 20 fast food branches from the US. Some of them I'd never seen before, but like I've never been at. And it's crazy. Like Honduras for me was the most crazy when it comes to fast food. I don't know if it's actually like that, but it's yeah.
I think there's also quite a big divide between Central America and South America.
Yes, yeah.
You know, I really like, for example, empanadas in Colombia or in Ecuador, or pupusas in El Salvador.
Oh, you're right. Pupusas, maybe not top 3, but top 5, 100%. Pupusas from El Salvador are really, really nice.
Are the best.
Yes.
I really want to go back to El Salvador now with Nayib Bukele having like
you're right. Yeah.
made everything safer, which is really nice.
True.
I really want to go back to El Salvador and eat some more pupusas.
Yeah, it's a great country. People sometimes are scared of El Salvador.
From Venezuela.
I thought about it, but not as nice. I would
arepa, baila morena, baila arepa.
No, arepas are good, but I wouldn't say there's like the top. They don't make it to the top of the list. No. But in general, I would say what I like in South America is, as you said, like
the girls.
That also. But I was gonna say the snacks, like whatever you find at like a local bakery, like empanadas, for example. I like that more, and their main dishes are usually just rice with something, beans and something else. Don't like it. Nope, sorry.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Latin American food is okay.
What do you think is the best country for someone who has never been outside Europe, outside the US? What do you think is the best country in Latin America for starters?
I'm thinking probably like Costa Rica, maybe, because it's the safest. Not most people speak English, but like more than in other countries. Yeah. Also Panama, maybe, because I feel like it's not too crazy, not too local. They have a really similar culture to like North America. Yeah, the rest is pretty much the same, I would say. Like in Brazil, of course they have the infrastructure. Brazil has nice infrastructure for tourists, which, for example, Venezuela doesn't have.
Well, that's if we primarily also go by safety, right? But I think there's a lot of awesome places, I think, that are worth being explored, that are also quite safe. Like I'm thinking Peru. Or Bolivia might not be the easiest. It's quite a difficult country to visit. It's not the most developed place, but generally speaking, I would say it's pretty safe.
No, absolutely. I was just thinking in those places that you mentioned, especially Bolivia, English is not very widely spoken.
Yeah, that's true. You have to know your way around.
Of course, if it's your first time outside of Europe, but you speak perfect Spanish because you're from Spain or have Spanish family or whatever, then you can go to any country, in my opinion. But you have to be able to communicate with the people. And when I say you should go to Costa Rica, it's because I assume someone that has been outside of Europe probably doesn't speak Spanish, Yeah. But if you do speak Spanish, then I don't think any of the countries are going to be a big problem for you. So you can, even Venezuela is like a country you can get around. And we were really surprised how safe it was. Yeah. I would say, it has a very bad reputation, but it's...
People always talk about safety people always talk about safety in Latin America, but hands down, I think 95% of countries in Africa feel way unsafer compared to Latin America.
Yes.
I don't think it's that bad as people make it seem. Look at El Salvador, for example, how they went from having the highest homicide rate in the world to now having one of the lowest ones in all of the Americas, including the US. So it's like, if you go to the US, you can also go to El Salvador, and you can also go to Peru and Bolivia, and Argentina is pretty safe. Chile is very safe. There's lots of places, I think, that are really worth being explored. Sure, if you go to the ghettos of Brazil or Venezuela, you have to be careful. Same in Colombia or in Honduras or in Nicaragua, But overall, I think people should go to those places.
Absolutely.
I think they're really amazing. It's literally probably my favorite part in the world. If I had to choose one region, it would be Latin America. I love Latin America.
No, it's really safer than most people
I love the
make
people
it.
Of Latin America.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's focus on food again.
Food, no. So say, well, so safety in Latin America is really it's better than people make it seem. It's really like that. For example, but you should know your way around. That's what I was going to say. In Buenos Aires, there was one time that I was in one place. I don't even remember where exactly it was, and I wanted to go to a different place. And I just put it on Google Maps and went like the shortest route, And in the middle of the way, there was like a lady coming up. She was like, "You're not from here. You shouldn't be here. Let me take you to the next big street because it's not safe for you."
Yeah, it's very interesting. Fun fact: the first time I ever got robbed after traveling to 190 countries was in Buenos Aires. I was there for the Copa America when they played against Colombia in the final, and they won. So we took it to the streets and we partied with everyone. And it had never happened to me after 190 countries, literally. And I was there and I had my gold chain on, which I had for 7 years. And we were just partying there, and all of a sudden someone came, grabbed me behind, and he was pretending to do like a Polonaise kind of dance. And I was like, oh, stop. It was very harsh. And then in that moment I saw he ripped off my gold chain and ran away. And I was like, shit, but I was very happy as well that it was just my chain, that it wasn't my phone. Because two guys next to me, they had robbed them at the same time. Like it was 3 guys, and they took their phones. You know? So for me, I was there with my chain. I was like, okay, honestly, I'm low-key happy that it was just my chain. Because it's a nice wake-up call. And then we went home and nothing happened.
Is a nice wake-up call. Yeah, to just, after traveling to so many places, to actually know, okay, now it can still finally happen. You're not exempt from robberies, basically. It's like, okay, well, it's just a chain, but it could have been something else, and could happen again. Yeah, no, it's a very good learning. But no, so what I was gonna say is, like, you have to know your way around a little bit in those places to be able to walk in safety. If you just go blindly, especially Sao Paulo is a really good example, because what looks to be the center of Sao Paulo on Google Maps is really a place you shouldn't go.
Yeah, it's the same like with outside of Latin America as well. Places like Joburg, where like, oh, this is the downtown, this is central.
No, don't go there.
Don't go there.
Exactly.
Just don't.
Exactly.
Do your research and go to the places where people tell you to. Guys, I'm honestly quite overwhelmed, because I was thinking, okay, Latin America, we will find some stuff to talk about, but it's such a huge topic. I kind of got overwhelmed. Like we got really stuck on languages and safety now. Yeah. And I feel like we could do 10 more episodes just on Latin America. Yeah. So if you guys have any specific questions in the comments, then let us know.
Or just specific topics. Like the topic now was like traveling through Latin America, like possible challenges or so. But
there's so many things.
Yeah, there's
we
a
haven't
lot
even
of things.
Gotten started on the girls.
It's kind of important to him, this, right? No, but definitely, if you have any specific topics or questions, just let us know. We've traveled quite a bit, both of us. Me more Brazil focused, you more kind of anything else focused. But, yeah.
Wait, what are you talking about again? Are you
No idea.
Okay. Oh, this is so
Exporting
funny.
bananas, that's what I'm trying to do.
Who is exporting his banana?
No, just we're just talking about a girl from Ecuador that exports bananas to Dubai. That's all that I meant.
That's everything. Anyway, guys, I think this is it for today.
Yeah.
This was episode 5, a very broad episode.
Yeah.
It's gonna get more niche in the next episodes, I'm sure, because we noticed now that we need to narrow down the topics, I think, a little bit, so we can talk more in depth about certain things. But it was interesting. If you have questions about Latin America, let us know in the comments. Again, I think both of us agree it's one of our favorite places in the world.
Absolutely.
I keep going back to Latin America. Love it. And you should go there too. Don't worry too much about the safety. You're going to be fine. Just learn some Spanish.
Absolutely.
See you in the next episode.
Adios.